fly away together. Into the forever.
Welcome into Box Office Quarterbacks, an episode we have been looking forward to, our full spoiler review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'm with my good friend Eric. Eric, you weren't on the non-spoiler review with us, so I want to get your initial reactions to this movie right now.
It was great. I do have one nitpick, but it's more of a nitpick of just the overarching theme or the overall discourse around these movies especially when a good one comes out and it's just like this has been the greatest movie since Endgame XY or the greatest movie since something before that. That's my nitpick that we'll get to later, but in all honesty, this movie had a lot of heart. It had a lot of emotion. It definitely had the feels. And I was in there. I was in the back. Good thing my theater was dark because, man, I definitely shed some tears. Jeff, what
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah, I was ugly crying by the end of this movie. Florence and the Machine, Dog Days Are Over came on, and I was a wreck. And I've been listening to that song ever since. But the thing I loved most about this movie is it feels so much like a James Gunn movie, first and foremost. Like, you could just even tell by the set pieces where like everything is so like when they're on that really weird world, it's just so goopy and like crazy, and then Nathan Fillion's in that weird spiky meat suit. I love that they just said, hey, we know this is your last movie with Marvel, you're gonna go run DC, go fucking nuts and just cook us up something special. And that's what I love most about this movie.
And it's like the level of trust, especially with James Gunn. He's done two of these. He's been through the whole thing from the Infinity Saga. Got fired, came back. Knows the MCU. Kevin Feige. They all know James Gunn. I mean, if he didn't get the DC job, it would have been cool to see if maybe Kevin Feige was like, "Hey, you'll be my number two, X, Y, and Z." But hey, who knows? Whatever. That didn't happen. But he's gonna go run DC. He's gonna go do his own thing. But yeah, like you said, they let him. They let him cook. Didn't even. It didn't. It doesn't seem like there was any issues of, oh, we need this not to be in there. We're gonna just let you do your vision. Where we've sometimes seen directors talk about how Marvel sometimes there's always an overarching theme that needs to be addressed or needs to be touched on, and it kind of cuts off the creative freedom for the directors, and we've seen that in the past. But here they've just let him go. We've seen it from the beginning, from the marketing. They said this is the first time I think we've seen an MCU movie where the director is explicitly stated this is a specific director's film. We saw it. It said this is a James Gunn film written and directed by. We've never seen that type of credit given. We're starting to see the Kevin Feige Productions credit given. So not only is this changing, but they like you said, when we touched on, they let James Gunn do his thing, and I'm happy that they did that because you can definitely tell. You touched on the characters, the set pieces, just the overall vibe and theme of the movie was definitely a James Gunn movie.
Yeah, for sure. And the overall story is Rocket's story. And, you know, we've had hints of his backstory since Guardians 1, but now to see how he was picked out by the High Evolutionary and just kind of put together, and just the tragedy that was his early life for a character that's completely CGI. And as Peyton will tell you, because Peyton looks like Rocket Raccoon, but as a character that's fully CGI, it is so crazy that we felt this much emotion toward this character. And I loved Rocket before this, but I think after this movie came out, I told Ahmed he is my favorite MCU character, I think, of all time, because there's just so many layers to him.
And you could see it sprinkled throughout his appearances in the MCU. We saw it in Guardians 1. We saw how he felt about we saw how he felt about Peter in Guardians 2 when he went off to run when Peter went off with Ego and everybody. He was always the one looking out like, hey man, listen, like this is what it is. We saw it in Infinity War when he was talking to Thor, just the sense of compassion that he had. We saw it in Endgame when they landed on at the Avengers compound where he was sitting with Nebula when they thought that they were the only two. Like it was always in there. And I was on Twitter and I saw James Gunn said that this was always going to be the third one. We were always going to see Rocket, and you touched on it. This was a Rocket story. You can, it, I think that's also what made this movie so great was just the emotion and the stakes. They weren't saving the world; they were saving their friend, and you could sense the fear and dread all of them had throughout the movie, trying to save Rocket. Um, and that's what really I felt grounded it because we're so used to the Guardians saving the world, saving the universe, but this time they were saving someone that they cared about, and it really grounded everybody. It really grounded the story. It made it feel small. It made it feel the stakes that have been even higher than what they experienced in Guardians 2 or Guardians 1 or even Endgame and Infinity War.
Yeah, and just having smaller stakes, I think, heightened the kind of anxiety with this movie because I thought everybody was going to die at a certain
Mm-hmm.
point of this movie. Like, there was that moment where Rocket is saving everybody from the High Evolutionary ship and he stays behind. I was like, oh my God, is this going to happen now? So that's just another aspect of the story I liked as well. But speaking of the story, uh, let's get into our favorite scenes. And there's a lot to pick from in this 2.5 hour long movie. Eric, what stood out the most for you?
Man, we full spoilers in this, so
Yeah, we
I
are.
know we didn't get that we full spoilers in this, but man, that hallway scene,
Shit.
oh, man, that was probably a top five scene in the MCU, and I'm even adding in the Daredevil hallway scene because after that, it seems like everybody's trying to do that scene, and this one was executed flawlessly. Like it was it was amazing. It was amazing. Just seeing everybody just cook, and it just means like, and it just goes to the theme where like nobody was overshadowed in this film where you felt like, oh wow, they're adding Cosmo the dog, they're adding Kraglin, they're adding Nathan Fillion's character, they're adding more characters, but it didn't seem like nobody anybody was left out or there could have been more. Like everybody had their chance to shine, which was amazing. And then it all came together in that hallway scene, which kind of was similar to if you I don't know if you've played Guardians of the Galaxy the game, like where
Mm-mm.
they do those like it kind of is similarly their fighting style was similar to that where they got a chance to do their team ups to do everything that they wanted to do and that just man, it was just great, man.
Yeah.
I think that was my favorite scene. Besides all the flashback scenes with Rocket that gave the emotional stakes, that hallway scene was my favorite. What about you?
Yeah, I am I'm going to agree with you there. Just when Rocket pulls out his gun and he's on Groot's back, he's like, "I'm Rocket Raccoon," and he says
Mm,
Rocket Raccoon for the first time. I was like, "Oh my god, I love this movie so
mm,
much." It really just cemented that home for me. I did love the backstory with Teefs and Floor
mhm.
and Lila. Holy crap!
Yeah,
That's when I first started crying in this movie. Was those scenes. So anything with Rocket's backstory, like you said, and Rocket just in general, holy crap, he is such a great character. But Eric, there is one character that's very important to the MCU moving forward that was introduced here, and that is Adam Warlock.
mhm.
Uh, what was your stance on him being introduced in this movie? And he's been teased for a long time in this franchise.
That's the thing is like I understand they did a good job of setting it up, saying, "Hey, he was taken out of his cocoon way too early, so he's pretty much a baby, and he doesn't fit. He doesn't know anything." But I mean, I think that's also it was kind of a cop out because they were written into a corner because everybody knows Adam Warlock is powered by the Soul Stone. There
Yeah.
obviously isn't a Soul Stone anymore in this universe. So they have to figure out a way to, one, depower him, and two, make it make sense to the point where it's like, okay, he's here, but he doesn't have the one thing that kind of like makes him who he is. So I get it. I understand it, but it was tough that everybody was so happy to see, or it was so marketed that we'll see Adam Warlock. But I felt like there could have been more, and I
Yeah.
guess it was just the fact of like he was kind of written as a joke character. So and spoiler alert, we see him in the post credit scene where he's now a part of the new Guardians of the Galaxy team. But it's just I'm interested to see. I have no idea. Like this is one of those things where it's like, dang, you kind of guess, but I have no clue what their plans are for Adam Warlock, and I think that also affects my judgment on him in this movie because it's just we just don't know, and I don't know. It seemed like it could have been better, but what about you? That
Y- Yeah, he seemed very kind of just there.
yeah.
And, he shows up right at the beginning, and he's the one who does take Rocket out in the first place, and he sets the
Mhm.
plot in motion. But I just feel that maybe we could have introduced him in an earlier movie, or maybe even the holiday special. I know that's kind of low stakes, but just if we had something else, I think it would have been a little bit stronger. But I like Will Poulter. I thought he did a great job with what he was given. Uh, the other character I want to get to before we rank our favorite character is the villain of this movie, the High
Mhm.
Evolutionary. I think he is a top 5 Marvel villain, maybe even top 3 after Loki and Thanos. But man, I've never experienced like such hatred towards a single villain before, and that's just a credit to the actor because holy crap, man, he was so diabolical in this movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. And he will, and that's the thing. Like I kind of like that's the thing that also James Gunn got going for him. He knows the actors he's working with because Chukwuria, I forgot his last name, but he was in Peacemaker, so he has
Yeah,
that relationship with James Gunn. James Gunn also has the relationship with others that were in Suicide Squad. His wife was also in Suicide Squad. Hey, I'm all for nepotism. I'm all
yeah,
for it. Hey, if you want to put your friends, your family on, hey, no, you get no qualms from me. But yeah, the High Evolutionary. See, this is also going to go into my nitpick. You said that he was a top 5 Marvel villain. Let's slow it down. Like, yeah, like the one part of being a villain is, nah, you gotta, I want to see you gotta die after what you did. And he played a villainous villain. Like, he was perfect. I need, he couldn't survive. There's no way he could have survived after everything that he did. So he had to go. But when we talk about top 5, let's slow it down there. All right.
yeah. He
This
is.
let's
All I know is like Rocket and him fighting at the end, and then his face comes off. I was like, holy
Yeah,
shit,
yeah.
this movie is crazy for PG-13. It
Mhm.
was very, very graphic, but I loved him a lot. He's not going to be my favorite character of the movie. I'll run out my top 5. It's going to be Rocket. I love Rocket. My favorite MCU character. Love Bradley Cooper's performance and Sean Gunn's physical performance because he was the one that did the mocap. I think Star Lord redeemed himself a lot in this movie,
Mhm.
so he'll be 2. I love Nebula at 3. 4 is going to be Drax, and I think 5 will be the High Evolutionary. So that'll be
Mhm.
my top 5.
Yeah, so I'll go Rocket 1, I'll go Nebula 2. Nebula, I think Nebula redeemed herself the most. She and just her character arc from going from what she went through with Thanos to seeing her now laughing, dancing at the end with with the Guardians, being almost the voice of reason at times where she had to take a look at herself, especially after what Mantis said to her, and coming in the end, letting Drax know, hey, you're not a destroyer, you were meant to be a dad, things like that. Just seeing her growth throughout. I would go Drax 3, Mantis 4, and I just don't like Star Lord is just whatever to me. So I'll go I'll go a High Evolutionary 5. But yeah, it's just I like Star Lord is cool, but like this wasn't a start. Like I forgot Groot too. Groot did his thing, but
Yeah.
it's tough to rank this movie. But I know Star Lord is just I get he was the leader of the film, but this was a rocket movie, man. This like
Yeah.
everybody was supporting characters to this, um, but yeah, that would probably be my list for favorite characters.
Yeah. So speaking of Star Lord, we do get the tease at the end. He's eating cereal with his grandpa, talking shit about a neighbor, but it says the legendary Star Lord will return. And this is probably the most mixed response to like an announcement like that I've seen on Twitter. Like I, I'd be fine to see him come back in Secret Wars, but I felt that it might have been better to just let the story end there. Like it was a perfect ending for Star Lord, where he goes back to Earth, he's with his family again. What are your thoughts on Chris Pratt returning in a future Marvel movie?
Do we know if it's Chris Pratt though?
That's true.
So I mean, everybody's saying, "Oh, the legendary Star Lord will return." We're definitely in the multiversal phase. No matter what happens with Jonathan Majors or whatever, we know that Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty are coming. The multiverse is going to play a major part in it. We've clearly seen um, a different fan. Like not all of the characters we know are played by the same actual person. Hence, Spider-Man: No Way Home. We've seen 3 different Peters, so we don't know if it's actually Chris Pratt that's coming back. I took it as Disney and Marvel see how profitable the Guardians of the Galaxy IP is, whether it's toys, whether it's movies. They needed to say the legendary Star Lord will return because it may not be Chris Pratt, but they damn sure going to sell you some Star Lord merch.
Yeah.
so that's how I took it as. Now I know Chris Pratt ain't like Robert Downey Jr. Chris Pratt ain't like Chris Evans, where they're like, I want to leave because I want to do other like things career wise. We got Chris Pratt being Super Mario. We got Chris Pratt doing Garfield. So I mean, and
Yeah.
hey man,
He's not picky.
hey man, hey, get your money, man. Hey, that respect. And if you do come back to the MCA, hey, everybody, especially if you know you got to shoot this once every 4 years, it's not taking up your schedule. I mean, hey, and they're gonna pay you. Hey, do your thing, man. I'm not gonna tell somebody to go make some money, but again, I didn't really mind it. I was just like, oh, that's interesting. It's just like my only thing is don't sell me this is the end, and it's not.
Yeah.
Like so it's like you would have might as well just said so like Rocket will return, like or Groot will return. But don't sell me the end, but and it's not. So I guess that was my one. That was one of my nitpicks.
Yeah. Like if they would have said the Guardians of the Galaxy will return and you like and it's like the new team of Guardians, I would have loved that, I think. Maybe instead. But that's like a small nitpick I had too. But when it comes to the grand scheme of this movie, it's time to get into our rankings, Eric. What would you rank this movie?
This movie, I w- when I left the theater, I was like, this was an amazing movie. But it goes into my nitpick, and I'm gonna go on a little tangent here. This goes into my nitpick, and this goes into like what I've seen on like social media and things like that. And like you said in the beginning, no, I'm not trying to shade you or anything. You said, "Oh, this is a top 5 Marvel movie." I've seen people say this is the best movie since Endgame. The MCU is back. Um, we just had Wakanda Forever 5 months ago,
Yeah.
and I loved Wakanda Forever, and I thought Wakanda Forever was a top 5 Marvel movie. Let's relax with this being the the greatest movie of all time. We just had a great movie 5 months ago. Yeah, we had. It just goes back to like how we're just so in the moment of things, and how we go back to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which wasn't as great as everybody wanted it to be, or it could have been. And it's just we're so stuck on that, but we couldn't see past that to say, hey, we just had Wakanda Forever with a great score, a great performances by everybody involved, a great villain who is also going to be a major part of the MCU going forward. And now we're here talking about this is the best movie since Endgame. I don't think it's the best since Endgame. It's one of the best since Endgame.
Yeah.
But and I'm saying that to say this is an all-star for me.
Surprising.
It's an all-star for me. I think a lot of it also will depend on my second watch, how I feel, because it was very emotional watching it the first time. So it's like, will it hit the same if I watch it the second time? Because I watched Wakanda Forever and it still hits every single time. So if I watch this the second time, um, will it hit the same? And this will be a good movie that we'll look back on at the end of the year and say, hey,
Yeah.
this was our rankings. But right now, for me, it's an all-star. What about you?
Like you said, recency bias is a hell of
Yes.
a thing. And I did the same thing with Wakanda Forever. I put it third in my all-time MCU rankings after it came out. This movie is now third in my MCU rankings after it came out. So I am a big proponent of recency bias because I do it all the time, but I'm going to give it an all-star. This is something, like you said, Eric, that we're going to look back at the end of the year to see if this really does stack up. I haven't seen it multiple times. Like it's a very emotional movie, so like I think I'll probably wait until Disney Plus to see it
Yeah.
again. It's not like Spider-Man No Way Home where I saw that 3 times in theaters, or Infinity War I saw twice, I think. So there are factors in it. I think this is a fitting ending to the trilogy. I think this and Cap are like the 2 best trilogies in the MCU by far. But yeah, time will tell if this movie does hold up the way that we're talking about it right now.
Yeah, and again, like depending on what the second watch would be for me is what would really solidify that ranking. And another, just going back to it, is just I wanted to make it a Hall of Fame, but it's just, man, you sold me that this is the end of the Guardians, and it's not. It's just like that. Really, I'm just like, you pulled the okey doke. Like I get it. I get it. You're a big business. You, like I said, the IP. You still want to sell Guardians merch because who knows how much Groot has pulled in
Oh
for
my god,
the
yeah.
Groot toys, Baby Groot, Rocket Raccoon, how much kids love the Star-Lord jacket, the Star-Lord helmet. Like, there's no way you're gonna take them off the shelves and not do or and not have this character anymore. But it's just, don't sell me the end, and it's not the end. Like, it's cool if you wanted to say like that's it, but we know it's not it. So that takes some points away from me. But like you said, we'll look at this again. But in the moment right now, it's an emotional movie for for CGI pets and everything. But it's the story that grips you, and um, it's going to be depending on the next watch will really solidify how I feel about this movie. But for right now, when I left the theater, I was like, dang, this was emotional. This was a great movie, and I'll put it at All Star. It's a fringe Hall of Fame, but for right now, I'm good on All Star.
My dogs say it's an all-star as you hear them in the background. They are very big fans of Rocket Raccoon and Groot because he kind of looks like a chew toy. So that's what you're hearing in the background. Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Eric, before we get out of here?
Nah, honestly, if I hear another, if this, I hope that this shows that the MCU can make movies the way that we want them to. They can have stakes. Not everything has to be we're saving the world. Not everything has to be uh you've never seen a movie like this, like things
Yeah.
like this. Like, not everything has to be the next big bang thing. Like, this shows that, hey, like, the stakes can be big, but they don't have to be world bending big. And you can have a successful, confined storytelling movie. Now that we hear that the MCU wants to start working with more established directors, which means that they'll be able to do what they want in their films. This was a great, this was a great case for all of that.
Yeah, 100%. Give, directors more freedom. Just like we saw with James Gunn, with Ryan Coogler and Wakanda Forever. I think that's really going to let Marvel stand out when it comes to the future of their films. But yeah, this has been another fun episode, Eric. We'll be back very, very soon. I know we're going to talk about Fast and the Furious in a few weeks. That's what I know is on the docket. So yeah, this has been Box Office QBs. That is Eric. I'm Jeff. We'll talk to you guys very, very soon. Follow us on social media, all that good stuff. Hope you guys have a good rest of the week.